Good evening. Srimati Devkundar Nalaghat Vaishnav College for Women cordially welcome you all to the online faculty development program on the present challenges and opportunities in the Indian business environment. Our college chairman, Srimati Mamta Deepat, our college secretary, Sri Chandrakant M. Tolia, our joint secretary, Sri Nimesh Tolia, and our college principal, Dr. R. Geeta, welcomes you all and they convey their best wishes for the smooth conduct of this program. SDNB Vaishnav College for Women has rendered more than 5 decades of service for the upliftment of women in South Chennai, catering to the needs of lower and middle income families. SDNB Vaishnav College is an autonomous college affiliated to University of Madras and re-accredited with A+ grade by NAC. We offer holistic education to the students. We offer higher education opportunities till PhD. We give them training in entrepreneurship, and we also give them good placement. And our placement cell has a record of giving 100% placement for the 5th consecutive year. We are very happy to tell you that our college is the only college in the city to have been accredited with as a study center by all the three institutes enacted by the Act of Parliament: Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and Institute of Cost Accountants of India. Having signed an MOU with the International Chamber of Indirect Tax Professionals, we were the first college in India to start a GST certificate course in 2017. We have also signed an MOU with Tata Consultancy Services in the academic interface program, and we offer business process services knowledge to our students. Now, today, the whole world is tense about COVID, and all the developed economies are unable to uh, overcome this situation. So we have got two young professionals who will be instilling confidence in us, and they will be giving us positive vibrations to how to meet the present challenges and what are the opportunities in the business world today, especially in India. I would like to, on behalf of SDNB Vaishnav College, I would like to welcome both the young professionals. CA Abhishek Murali is a practicing chartered accountant and is a partner of Messrs. Victor Grace and Company. And he is the youngest elected regional council member and secretary of the Southern India Regional Council Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And we are happy to inform you that he has secured first rank in the SIMA strategy examinations, 17th rank in SIMA final examinations, and All India 5th rank in the International Taxation exam conducted by CEOT London. He is nominated as the Honorable First Secretary of Economy and Trade to the Honorable Consulate of Republic of Zambia. He has been nominated to the various committees of ICAI New Delhi, and he is also the chairman of various committees of SIRC ICAI. He is also the member of Institute of Internal Auditors, and he is a secretary of All India Taxpayers Association. He is an active volunteer of Arivoli, and he has worked for the upliftment through various NGOs. He is an active Rotarian, and he is a founder of Rotary Club of Madras Next Gen. He has addressed various conferences, seminars, workshops organized by corporate forums, professional bodies, universities, and colleges. Now it's my turn to welcome CA Divya Abhishek. Divya Abhishek is a practicing chartered accountant, and she is a partner in Messrs. DSNR Company. We are also proud to inform you that she has secured All India 46th rank in CA final examination and 23rd rank by ICSI. And she has secured All India 4th rank in the international tax examinations conducted by CEOT London. She is the youngest ever president of Inner Wheel Club of Madras Next Generation. She is the secretary of Women Professional Empowerment Forum of India. She is the first Secretary of Business Development and Trade Relations to the Honorable Consulate of Zambia, South India. She has been nominated to various committees of SIRC. She has been elected as the Treasurer of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry for the two consecutive years, 2019-20 and 2020-21. She is also the member of Advisory Committee and Board of Studies member of various colleges. She is a keen social activist with a passionate professional focus on women empowerment. She is also campaigning for the upliftment of the girl child. On behalf of SDNB Vaishnav College, we welcome you and invite you to chair the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to Dr.CA Abhishek Murali.
Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, ma'am. I just So it gives me great pleasure and privilege to be addressing on behalf of the SDNB College in this program organized by them. In fact, I know it's a great college. The family has been associated with it for long. My father used to, in fact, regularly address at the college also. So it gives me a lot of privilege, pride, and a lot of fond memories when now I'm having the opportunity to address on their behalf on this very important program. So, without further ado, I'll jump straight into the topic. Let me share my PowerPoint presentation. So, as you can see on the screen, and you might be aware, the topic for the day is the opportunities and challenges through the COVID phase. It's an unprecedented time, this COVID, and there are a lot of economic effects that are going to be felt because of this. And as you are all well aware, the entire scenario of the economy, of the dynamics of how business is done, how education is done, how we are communicating with each other on a day-to-day basis, everything has substantially changed. So we are in for whenever the lockdown is lifted. In fact, if news is to be believed, it may be extended till 31st in red areas. So whenever the lockdown is lifted, life is not going to be exactly the same. It's definitely going to change. But the first thing that we have to appreciate before we understand what are the opportunities and what are the challenges, the first thing that we really need to do is to understand where the economy was and where we are going. To start off with, we have to address the fact that we may be facing a slowdown or a recession for the next 12 months minimum. Maybe longer, but for the next 9 to 12 months, there's 100% going to be a recession and we are going to feel the effects of that. When this is the case, and this is the scenario, let's raise a very, very important point as to, is this the first time we are facing a recession? Why is this recession so unique? Why is there so much hullabulla around this recession? We have faced a recession in the 1980s, the 1990s, when the dot-com boom and then dot-com bust was there, when Enron went out of business in 2001, when 2008 there was the subprime crisis and Lehman Brothers collapsed. In 2011, we faced a double dip recession, and now again in 2020 we are facing a recession because of COVID. So, what is unique about this? See, unlike any of the earlier recessions, generally a recession is always isolated to a certain geography or certain sectors. You take the 2008 recession, the subprime crisis, India was fairly insulated. That is, we did not feel the after effects of the economical downfall or the economic collapse. Definitely, some amount is felt because we are a developing nation that depends on the US or the UK. So whenever something bad happens there, it's going to impact us. So that impacted us. But in terms of your day-to-day activities, in terms of job opportunities, job satisfaction, there was not a significant change back in 2008. And that is the case whenever any sort of recession happens. But now, what is unprecedented, what is unique about this COVID is for the first time ever, there is a recession where everybody across the world is on lockdown. Everybody is sitting at home, everybody is pondering how to kickstart activities, what is going to change. And the biggest issue is we don't know where the end is. The earliest vaccine is expected 9 to 12 months later. And it's not like chickenpox, where if you get the disease, suddenly you get a immunity. Unlike that, COVID, if you get the infection and you recover, does not mean whenever you're around a COVID person, you will be insulated. No, you do not get any sort of, protection or immunity that other people enjoy in certain infections. So you're still susceptible to disease. So therefore, for the next 12 months, multiple lockdowns, maybe issues in terms of a risk in a life or your medical threatening issues are going to be there. So naturally, the impacts will also be felt in a business. So having said all of this, having given this introduction, there is definitely going to be a change. There are going to be new opportunities coming, and there's definitely going to be multiple challenges also that come up through this period. So let's get started. And before we understand where we are going, let us see first where we were before this. So on the screen, you can see what is the consumption pattern analysis. And normally, statistics is always your gateway to assessing any good opportunity or any good challenges that you may face. So on the screen, you can see what is the consumption pattern analysis of an average Indian in January 2020. So significantly, 18% of our expenses went towards transport, and I've highlighted three specific sectors which are going to be very, very deeply affected. Now, as far as food is concerned, your beverages and housing and water supply, all of this rent you're going to pay. These expenses are going to stay irrespective of whether recession is there or not, because these are essential. The non-essential expenses, or some may be essential but things have to change, is transport, for example. Now, earlier, you're all well aware that the public transport is the lifeline for India. If people need to get to their offices, they need access to bus, they need access to trains. Without either, you're going to struggle. But suddenly, transportation has become unsafe. As I said, since this is a highly communicable infection, how comfortable will you be taking a train or taking a bus, sharing the seat with 60 or 70 people? You've all seen videos of the suburban train where 200 people are clamoring into one compartment, where they people say, right, if you want to get onto the train, you don't have to make any effect. The crowd itself, they'll push you onto the train. Similarly, the crowd will push you off. So now, how comfortable will you be taking a Bombay suburban train? I will not be comfortable, and I'm sure most people will not be comfortable because there's no room to move, let alone cover your mouth or protect yourself if somebody's coughing or sneezing near you. Similar thing applies for your travel by flight or by a train or by a bus. So everything is suddenly going to come to a standstill. The next important thing, recreation and culture. How many of you will prefer to watch movies and go into the theaters now in a situation like this? Definitely the number is going to be lower. If IPL resumes, will you be comfortable going to the stadium to watch a match with 60,000 people? I don't think so, because people are sweating, people are shouting, people are, engaging in so much activities where it could transfer the infection very, very easily. So therefore, suddenly these basic activities, along with even tourism, all these are going to get very, very deeply impacted. So therefore, when you get challenges like this, when you have deep impacts like this, it also creates certain opportunities. So throughout my presentation, I'm going to briefly touch upon, if you're a business, how to identify the challenges, how to identify the pain points, and then finally, what are the new opportunities that come out because of these pain points. So these are the critical concepts that I'll be covering through my presentation. And I'm going to, I discussed with Savitri ma'am at the start before the program, is that we will be keeping our presentation brief. I will be addressing the larger issues along with the challenges and probably the opportunities, followed by CA Divya, who will be touching upon personal finance and how that's also going to be impacted for you, how you need to plan, what are the opportunities present there. So we will keep our address to maybe 20 to 25 minutes tops, and then we will have a discussion where we will take your questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments box that is there in the YouTube page that you're watching. So you can type in your comment. We will flash your comment on the screen and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So let's get started with the first point, which is cash flows and profitability. In 2008, when the recession happened, Adi Godrej very famously said, he said, sales is vanity, profit is sanity, cash flow is reality. For any business or any person also today, your cash flow is what is critical. By making a credit sale, I can sell my goods saying that you pay me after 100 days, you pay me after 300 days, you pay me after 500 days. My sales will be very high, but I'll not have any cash because I'll be collecting it later. In times of a economic recession or a slowdown, should always remember liquidity issues are there. Therefore, cash is king. Repeatedly, you will hear this phrase not only in this presentation but in general for the next 6 to 12 months, where you'll hear the phrase cash is king. So, you need to have as much cash at your disposal to the extent possible. So, when you're in a liquidity crisis, try to make as much cash sales as possible, not credit. Even if somebody comes and says, I promise I will pay you back after 90 days. We have had relationship for almost 100 years. We have had a relationship for 30, 40 years. I have known you as a best friend. Our business has been doing together. Your father used to do business with my father. These are all very common discussions that happen in any business. But suddenly you're going to find that all of this will not fly. If you need to succeed in business, you need to start accepting what is right for you to survive, which is doing cash transaction and having cash at your disposal. My next point also pertains to something similar, which is capital outflow. In a time of recession or slowdown, you need to start avoiding capital outflow. What is a capital outflow? Let's understand this with an example. Now, you are staying wherever you are staying, down the road, suddenly you find somebody is selling or building a house and they are admitting bookings. So, in January itself, you noticed. So, you went and you spoke to them. They said, we are charging 10,000 rupees per square feet. So, he said, okay, I will think about it and I'll get back to you, sir. And suddenly, today, you are getting a call from the same builder. He says, excuse me, you had shown some interest in that property. Yes, yes, I had. We are giving you a special discount. If you book in the next 2 weeks, we will sell that same flat to you at 4,000 rupees per square feet. In January, he said 10,000 per square feet. Within 3 months, now he's saying 4,000 rupees per square feet. 60% discount. But what he's saying, you have to make the full payment immediately. Now you'll get very tempted in this because getting a 60% discount is a big deal. You will never get that discount again. You would have never got that discount in the past also. So it's a unique situation where suddenly you got this opportunity to buy it at 4,000 rupees per square feet. Now, should you buy the flat? You can. But let's understand the possible implications because of it. Now I go and buy that apartment. What is the impact? I have spent a huge sum of money today, several lakhs, maybe several crores in some transactions you have spent on buying that property today. What is the other impact of it? That flat has to be completed. And minimum today, 3 to 5 years, builders are taking to complete their buildings. So, assuming he completes at all in 3 to 5 years, for the 3 to 5 years, you have to pay rent in the current house that you are staying. Not only that, you would have taken a loan. So you have to pay the EMI. You have to pay the interest and service that loan. And finally, after 3 to 5 years, when you get that asset in your hand, you need to remodel it, do the interiors, all the basic work needs to be done. Then you have to rent out that flat in hope that 5 years later, somebody will be willing to take a house on rent in that area. That entire situation stays the same. So therefore, there are so many uncertainty factors when it comes to your capital outflows, because capital outflows are long-term transactions. You think of the long-term effect. Now you may ask me, Abhishek, whatever you are saying holds true even when the economy is doing well. Yes, you are absolutely right. But the difference is when the economy is doing well, you don't have to worry about survival. Suppose a medical emergency comes up in the house or to a relative, or maybe a close friend wants to borrow money, or maybe my business, I'm getting a big order. I need to service that order. For that, I need the money to buy the inventory or to pay the laborers, etc. If in such situations I am trapped because I have purchased a flat which does not yield any benefit, does not yield any asset or income for the next 3 to 5 years, then it's a very, very pitiable situation. So the advice in general is whenever there's a capital outflow, if you want to spend on some capital item, maybe purchasing a house or a machinery, etc., then ensure that you have adequate buffer to handle any emergency situation that you may be forced to face in the next few months. The next point is working capital management. Many of you will be familiar with this diagram on your screen now. Either you would have studied it already or you may be teaching your students, etc. So this is the working capital cycle, and inventory management is a very, very important thing, part of your working capital management. Unlike the previous slide, where everything depended on a third party, if I have to extend a credit period, somebody has to come and ask me, give me extra 100 days. If I have to make a cash sale, somebody should be willing to buy a cash. Somebody, if I'm going to buy a flat, that builder has to say, I will give you at 4,000 rupees instead of 10,000. So everything involves an outside party. But as far as working capital management is concerned, it's entirely it's you can determine how to manage your expenses and working capital management. It's internal. You don't have to look outside. And the starting point for that is your inventory management. Generally, in times of recession, just like that house builder came and gave a big discount, your suppliers will also give very, very big discounts. If I'm making shoes, I manufacture footwear or leather shoes, etc. In such circumstances, I'll get great offers from leather providers. I buy leather, I make the shoe, I sell the shoe. The persons who are providing the leather, they will come and give big discounts. I buy leather every 3 weeks. One person says, you buy for the next 8 months, then I'll ensure that you get 50% discount. So, very tempting. You want to buy for 8 months stock. But if you rush and buy, you have to first find a place to store that stock. So, you have to take a warehouse or a go down on rent. Then you have to hire security to make sure that there is no theft. So, you will put security 3 4 staff there at the go down. Then you have to hire people to ensure there's taking care of the material. It should not get spoiled. So they'll be coming doing the counting, inventory count, etc. You have to get the chemicals to ensure it is sprayed on the material so that it doesn't get spoiled. Then other requirements to, if there is a flood, if there are heavy rains, if there is heavy winds, everything will affect your raw material. So you have to ensure that is also protected from these sort of nature's tantrums. So many factors are there. Not only that, at the end of 8 months, if you don't get any order, what will you and I do when we want shoes? We will now, in a recessionary scenario, we will not rush and buy that second shoe, third shoe. We will say, I have one pair of shoes, I'll use this only, I don't need a new pair of shoes. Unless this gets torn or it gets damaged very badly, I will not change my shoes. So therefore I'll wait and watch. So the situation demands that people will stop spending as much as they were before. It may be 10%, 50%, 90%. But the fact remains, people are not going to spend like how they used to. So when before I was ordering 3 weeks worth inventory, does it make sense for me to order 8 months worth inventory in a recession time just because I'm getting 50% discount? It does not. So that brings me to the critical point when it comes to inventory management. The risk of inventory is a high thing. We have seen so many businesses burn down to the ground because they managed their inventory poorly. They got tempted and they bought high inventory. They went to waste. They could not do anything with it. So, in a recessionary time, follow a methodology called JIT. That means just in time. You only have adequate inventory to manage for the next few immediate orders that regularly you are doing business. If I get a new fresh order, make me 8,000 shoes, 10,000 shoes, then in these circumstances, I will tell them I will order the inventory first, then I will make the shoes. So normally I would have given to you in 2 weeks. It will take me 4 weeks, sir. You please bear with it. Here, at least I am securing my income before I have the expense. The next critical point, try to recover your old pending receivables. Always a business, even though you have credit terms, I'm selling, you have to pay me back in 60 days. That person, he will say, give me another 20 or 30 days, which is normally I will give, no questions asked. I'll just do it because we have a good relationship. He has always paid me properly. In times of recession, cash is king, you must remember. So get the old receivables first. Always ensure whatever you are given extra time, collect that first. Once you collect, you can repay later. Next important point, create innovative pricing strategies to attract customers. And this is a point where many of your students, I know many faculties are listening and the students are listening. This is very critical for you. In a time of recession, it's very important that you need to be creative and innovative, which means you have to come up with really out of the box thinking solutions to make sales. I'll give you an example. We are advising many of our clients on how to manage their business through this COVID period. So one of the clients who's a car dealership company, when we are discussing with them, we ended up coming with a final theory how they need to do their business. So this business, the car dealership, they needed to make sales for the next few period to survive. So they came up with a landmark pricing policy where they said, if you buy a car from them in the next 1 month or the next 2 months, then they will undertake to buy back that car in case you lose your job in the next 12 months, in case your business goes out of business in the next 12 months. The car dealership promises they will buy back the car from you if you're interested in selling it. So, as a buyer, I feel secure. Okay, if I lose my job, they are saying that they will buy back this car. So if anything bad happens, I can always sell this back. Okay, I may lose 1 lakh or I may lose 50,000 in the process, but at least my major expense is secure. My major expense is secure. So I want to secure that. It's okay. Let me go and buy. You may think that is crazy for them to say that they'll be willing to take this outflow. They're willing to take this hit of several lakhs by promising a buyback. But for that business, they needed to survive the next 3 months. They are saying after 3 months, if we are able to survive, we're able to do business in the next 3 months. Whatever number of cars we need to buy back, we'll be happy to buy back. We'll have the money. So we are sure the economy will pick up. But the next 3 months, I need to survive. So innovation always comes from generally young minds, I have seen. So as teachers, we need to start encouraging the students to start thinking out of the box, come up with out of the box thinking on any aspect of business they are getting into. So when you go for a interview, you have to encourage them to voice these out of the box thinking also. Staff and HR management, very briefly, I'll keep my session here brief, which is a lot of jobs are going to become extinct. An example is many companies, they have door to door salesperson where you'll have a person, he'll take his bike or he'll take his car, he'll go to each company or each customer, prospective customer, and he'll go and market the product. And then he will go from each area to area, Chennai to Kanchipuram, Tirumalpet, like that. He will go from each state to state. So when this happens, normally some sales will happen or good relationships are built up. But we are in a scenario where going on the road itself is now considered a risk. Going between district to district is not permitted. Leave alone going from one state to another state, that is gone. So these situations, again, when all of a sudden in a matter of few months, that marketing person entire job is extinct. At least for the next 9 to 12 months, he is not going to do as much business like that. So you need to start coming up with new strategies. So job roles will be extinct. Try to go more digital. Try to think how you can be of value to the company and don't stick to the traditional job roles. Move on to the new job roles. Expenses management, the next speaker will be covering on that in terms of loan, rent, and what is a good expense, bad expense, etc. So I will like to conclude with two important things. First is the impact on education. The reason I'm doing this is because I know I'm addressing a lot of teachers and a lot of faculties, people from education institutions. So we are all well aware that this is going to happen for a long time. This COVID restrictions, not having classroom, may be a long-term situation. So we cannot stop education. We cannot be in a lockdown in our house for our life. We cannot be in the lockdown for the next 12 months. Similarly, as educationists, as teachers, our job goes on. We have to continue educating people. So how is this going to get impacted? You are going to see a transition to digital, recorded, and online classes, mobile learnings. If you have been following what the Honorable Finance Minister has been announcing over the last 5 days, and in fact today specifically in the morning, she announced one very, very innovative thing. She said there'll be 12 new channels, TV channels, which are going to be introduced, where there'll be interactive teaching with students. So they are very, very well aware of the reality that people are not going to go to classrooms like they used to. Even if schools are allowing, even if colleges are allowing, students or their families may have some fear. So they are expecting the number of people who go to a classroom is going to be lesser. So we need to come out with ways on how to reach the students. How can we do our job from sitting in our college or sitting in our house? We can still do a good job of education. So we have to come up with innovative strategies. In fact, both CA Divya and I, we're on the board of studies of various colleges, and we have been on constant contact with all of these colleges. We are advising them how they need to move, and many colleges have taken our suggestions in a very positive way. Two, three of them have already started moving towards this. So I think moving to a digital platform, at least for the time being, needs to be done. And we need to innovate our curriculum to suit this time change. So we have to come up with that. And the most important thing of all, new skill development focus. As I said, things are going digital. Suddenly, jobs are going extinct. So, if I was a person doing that door to door sales, I studied marketing. My interest was in doing door to door sales. Suddenly, my entire efforts have gone to waste. What can I do? You have to, whether you're going door to door sales or not, everybody in the morning when they wake up, they're looking at the Facebook, they're looking at their Instagram or Twitter. So suddenly the social media has become something that is used on a daily basis without fail. Whatever recession is there, whatever depression is there, people are going to look at their social media. So if I was marketing that product on a social media, if I had an online presence for my product, then my role, my value, the asset I am to the company is much more than just saying I'm a BCom qualified, I got 90 marks. I do not add value by simply getting high marks. I need to show the company I can add something of value to them. I have some extra skills also. So therefore, these are very, very critical when it comes to the education sector. And as school institutions, we have to teach this to the students, or we have to encourage them to start considering that. New opportunities, again, I prepared the slide before the announcements, but what we have to remember is now a lot of new opportunities have come up. As much as the government have now privatized or allowed the private players to participate in industries where only the government was operating, be coal mining or something which is very, very exciting for especially young people, space travel or space business. Only ISRO was doing it. Now like the US, they're saying SpaceX can come, they're saying Elon Musk, these sort of companies can come. Indian entrepreneurs can start out and also rent and use the ISRO facilities. So these are very, very generous updates which have come from the finance minister, and it has opened up many new opportunities in the long term for people who are interested in these areas. With this, I thank you very much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. I now hand over the desk to the next speaker, CA Divya Abhishek.
A very good afternoon to one and all. We are truly living in unprecedented, unparalleled times. It has been so much for the world to take. In fact, the IMF chief Geeta Gopinath calls this the Great Lockdown, tying into the Great Depression that happened in the 1930s. She says the total loss to the global economy is going to be $9 trillion, and over 100 countries have already approached the IMF to ask for funding. Now, that is the scale at which this pandemic has truly hit the world, not just India, but the whole world. Having understood the macro impact of this from the previous speaker, let us understand what impact this is going to have on you and me sitting out of our homes. What we need to do on our personal finance front in order to insulate ourselves from the situation that we're grappling with currently. The first step would be to draw an emergency budget. Now, this is something that we have come across at many points of times in our life. We do it in companies, we teach this to various students. But how many of us are implementing this in our personal life? In times like these, during a period of crisis, it's extremely critical that we make a budget for ourselves and our family. The starting point would be the time period for which you need to have this budget. Now, you know that even though potentially the lockdown might be lifted in June, the economy might recover. The situation of this recession might go on for a period of 6 months to 12 months. So, you need to ensure that when you draw this budget, you have a minimum period of 6 months, ideally for a period of 1 year. The first step would be to ascertain your income. Now, when I say income, I may mean what is going to be actually credited to your bank account. You know that there are going to be job cuts, there are going to be lesser pay raises. So ensure that you factor this in when you determine this. The next stage is to determine your expenses. Now, there are essential expenses, non essential expenses. We hear this term a lot. I would like to call this as life and lifestyle. What you have to spend on your life is non negotiable. It could be in the form of fruits, vegetables, your rental expenses, tax if you've taken a low EMI expenses for that. Now you cannot avoid these expenses. So try to keep it at the minimum, but ensure when you ascertain this, there are potential increases in vegetable prices. Now you know when you shopped in March for 1 kg of potato, the cost is almost 3 times now due to various difficulties in the market. So ensure you factor that. The next is your non-essential, that is expenses on your lifestyle. Now these are effectively your air conditioners, your cars, whatever that you've been thinking you need, but you don't actually need for your regular functioning. Supposing you have a dilemma between what phone to get. There's iPhone, there's a new Samsung. You want to think you want to get a lesser expensive one. You ask me my opinion. I would say don't buy a phone at all. These are the times that we are in. So ensure you keep this to the minimal. To the extent possible, try not to spend on items that you do not need, on branded goods, luxury items. It can wait for a period of a year. Now, after you finish this assessment, if you feel you have excess funds, that is, your income is more than your minimal expenses, then look for deploying it in liquid investments. Since cash is king, you need to ensure that you do not block your funds in long term investments. Unfortunately, after this exercise, you feel you have lesser amount. That is, your expenses are far higher than your income. Then try to look at alternate funding. Before jumping into getting a loan, just because the interest rates are favorable, I would suggest try to deploy these funds locally, either from friends, your relatives. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of help and support system around you. So this would be your budgeting exercise. Once you complete this, there are two steps that you need to take. One is to ascertain your revenue. The other is your necessary outflow. Now, try to identify alternate revenue streams. We're all working from home. So, your transportation time has been significantly cut because of this. So, try to utilize it. It's a good time for you to upskill and reskill. Now, as teachers, you can start your digital platforms. You can put your college out there. There's no boundaries in geography right now. So, it's a good time for you to put your college and yourself in the global market. As students, try to attend more certification courses. If you have any talents that you're not utilized, it's a good time for you to get there. The next step would be to be aware of the relief measures provided by the government. Now, these are targeted measures, they are not automatic. So, you need to be proactive to understand. I will be covering the most critical ones in later parts of my presentation. I've already said this. You consider tapping into your emergency savings before you look for borrowing. Try to see if you have any savings that you've kept aside for your college or future education of your children. Try to tap into that. The next one is your payment partners. Now, with the no communication and all that, we are using a lot of payment platforms, be it your Paytm, your Google Pay. There are a lot of cashbacks that these platforms offer. So be aware. Maybe if you use your HDFC card, you can get some discount. So be aware of what these offers are and make use of it. Every penny saved will go a long way during these times. There are some unavoidable expenses, like I said before. The most critical one being your auto debit payments. Now, I like to call this the silent killers because when we were in a good position, we'd have signed up for some SIPs, we'd have made some gym subscriptions, we'd have made subscription for entertainment, be it Netflix, Hotstar. Analyze, understand what is going out of your bank account. If something is excessive, if you feel you do not need that, it's a good time for you to chop that down, cut it down. You can always get back to it later. Do not ignore your credit card payments. Even though there is a moratorium that has been introduced, you still have to pay interest on it. So if you have funds, if you have factored that, it's a good time for you to pay it. And stop using your credit card for some time. The next is the rent due. Now, you cannot ask your landlord to waive it altogether because what is your expense is going to be income for somebody else. But there is a security deposit that you would have paid at the start of the lease, which is effectively more than a month's rent, which the landlord will retain. And when you vacate the premises, this is refunded to you. If you are short on funds, talk to your landlord. Ask him if he can appropriate some of your deposit as your rental income for this year. That way, you will not have to spend it out of your pocket. During these times, we've understood that health is wealth. So, analyze your health insurance. If you have already taken a health insurance for you and your family, understand what your cover is. So, this is not the time where you want to spend on hospital charges and costs. If you haven't taken, there are a lot of COVID insurance schemes that are going around. Understand from the insurance brokers and find the most optimal one for you and your family. The next critical one is the panic selling. Now, this is something that I notice a lot that is happening. Investors are really scared. At this junction, you need to understand the difference between a paper loss and a real loss. As long as you see the loss only on your screen, it is only a paper loss. The minute you click the sell button, the loss becomes real. It crystallizes as your real loss. The markets have gone through various corrections more than 80 times in the past. It has always gone back up. So, if you are someone who had a fundamentally strong strategy when you made the investment, you can hold on to it. Please understand the market will improve over a period of time. If there's no immediate requirement for deployment of that fund, do not panic sell. Hold on to your investments, understand what is happening, and then take a call as to what you need to do. The government has really come out with various relief measures which will also have a long term effect on the economy. In fact, it was lauded for the strict lockdown that it had introduced early on in the most proactive manner. Now, these are targeted measures. It's very important for us to know them because what you need to remember is these are not directly going to benefit you. You need to opt for it to benefit you. The most critical reform is in the area of provident fund, where any company which has less than 100 employees, and for those who have salary less than 15,000, comprising 90% of the workforce, the government has opted that it will contribute 24% of the EPF on behalf of the employee and employer. Also, over and above that, if those who have shortage of funds, they can opt to withdraw from the provident fund up to 75% of the accumulated balance or 3 months' wages, whichever is lower. Now, more than 12 lakh people have utilized this, and over 2,700 crores has already gone on. So, this is very beneficial if you are someone who has low income. You can go ahead and withdraw from this fund. It has also reduced the rate of both ESI and PF. So, this is a good relief for the employers to opt for and make use of. It has also given liquid cash for Jan Dhan holders. More than 20 crore holders have already withdrawn and taken this 500 rupees per month benefit with grains and dal. It has given benefits to senior citizens, Manrega workers. So even if you do not benefit from this directly, if you know someone who's going to benefit from it, inform them. These are very good measures that the government has given to the economy. It's all online operated, so it's a good time for you to understand this. Of course, it has identified the health insurance medical professionals by giving 50 lakh health insurance. MSME. Now, India has over 65 million MSME companies operating. So, the government has given targeted measures for them as well. It has infused funds. It has given an equity infusion of 50,000 crores for those who need and who are growing. The next critical one being in the form of a loan. A 4-year loan tenor is provided with a 12-month moratorium period. Interest rates have been capped. The government has also gone one step ahead and given confidence for NBFCs and banks to lend to these MSMEs by giving 100% guarantee without any fee or collateral. So we do expect the MSME sector to revive and thrive during these times. Over and above this, even at an individual level, the government has given reforms in the form of income tax. First time in the history of India, it has given a total refund for all individuals who are due less than 5 lakhs, no questions asked. No questions asked. It has immediately refunded this. It has gone one step further by extending this to also firms, charitable trusts, LLPs, non corporate entities. It has extended the return dates. Now, why this is done is because the government is giving a clear information that you focus on reviving your business. The statutory compliances can wait. It has reduced the TDS TCS rates by 25% till March 31st, 2021. There are also significant reforms in both GST and MCA. All these have been coming for the last 5 days through the announcement made by the Honorable Finance Ministers. Has also given sectoral reforms, which the previous speaker had touched upon, where public private partnerships are encouraged and there's been more scope to make in India. The next reforms by RBI. This is also known as the apex bank or lender of last resort. Now, RBI has also truly risen to these crises, the most significant being the moratorium. It has given a 3-month moratorium on all loans taken with a fixed period term. What is important for us to understand is moratorium is not waiver. I repeat, it is not waiver. You are simply given a 3-month relief period where you're not going to pay your interest due. Supposing you take a loan with a 12-month period, this has been extended to 15 months. So you are still going to pay interest on it. Now, if you're someone who's budgeted this, who has funds for it, please go ahead and pay it because you're not going to incur the additional interest. If you're someone who doesn't, and if you have multiple loans, analyze them. A loan with a lower interest rate, you can go for this moratorium. And this is not automatic. As I already said, you need to speak to your bankers if you want to avail this and understand the implication in loan. There has also been significant liquidity injection of up to 10% of GDP. 20 lakh crore has been infused into the economy in various forms. NBFCs are given. Now, over and above relief to the NBFCs and banks, this is a clear information by the government to you saying that there is funds, there is liquidity with the government. So investors do not have to panic, go in for selling. They should not lose confidence in the economy. This is more of a hope of confidence into the economy given. Now, in every adversity, there is an opportunity. This is a good time for you to understand, revitalize, and make use of this. There's going to be a major shift towards localization. The digital economy has a real push through this. As already emphasized before, cash is king. It's a good time for you to explore new opportunities, stay home, stay safe, and stay positive. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. As we said, we are happy to take questions and answer all your doubts now. Thank you.
Maybe we'll take some questions which have come up.
Thank you, Lakshmi. I think a lot of you have asked us to share the presentation. I will put in my email ID in the comment box and we'll be happy to share it with you at the end of the session. Any other questions?
We'd like to know what will be the role of teachers in the post-COVID period.
Role of teachers, definitely, I think, as I touched upon it, the entire education sector is going to change, I'm not going to say the role of teachers is going to change, because as educationists, I think you are shaping the future, and you've always played a critical role. You will continue to play a critical role. Maybe the key change that's going to happen is, I think, education sector, sometimes there is a tendency for us to be a little laid back when it comes digitally, because there was no urgency, there was no requirement. But I think given the situation today, there is a urgency, there is a requirement for us to immediately adapt to going on a digital mode. So as teachers also, we should be more accepting of taking up Zoom calls, taking up Zoom sessions with the students, and trying to come up with a different style of teaching to suit that online education.
The final year students are in a dilemma because their exams are postponed, and they are not in a position to know whether their placements will be honored. Now, the government has come out with various new schemes, new definition of MSMEs. Will you give them advice as to take up entrepreneurship, go for higher studies, or take up placement?
So that's very well said, ma'am. You're right. MSME's definition has been expanded by the government. What is important to understand is there is always going to be an opportunity for employment in the market. Maybe so far it would have been physically attending, but companies will want more skills like digital skills and new skills that they need to empower themselves with during these times. So choosing between placement and studying further is a very independent decision one has to make. However, if you're not going to be able to travel, since there's going to be so much limitation on geography and all that considering COVID, this year will be a good time for you to probably explore your entrepreneurial skills. If you want to start something, if you have an idea, you can do that, or you can join a fresh startup or some other company that is upcoming, and always explore studying further maybe in the year going forward, because a lot of colleges are also offering deferment options now. Even though you're already entered into some college abroad, they're giving you a deferment option to take it up next year. So it's good time for you to understand and analyze what you need to do.
Sharanya Alangovan has asked, do you, due to everything in online, investing in digital goods is now advisable? What's the future of the digital market? I think that's a good question. And yes, everything is going online. We can take a simple example. If you had a maybe electronics showroom and you chose not to sell on Amazon, now for the last 60 days, in the green areas and in the orange areas, Amazon has been delivering everywhere. It is only in the red areas that there is some restriction. Even then, Amazon is still delivering. So if I had a showroom and I only marketed through my showroom, I did not deliver through Amazon, then I have not been doing business for the last 60 days. Whereas anybody else who's my competitor, they have decided they'll sell through Amazon, then that person has been making some sales, maybe not his usual sales, but he's definitely making more sales than me. So therefore, it is very clear from this that moving digital is the future, and it is very, very bright.
Please suggest Please suggest good saving options, especially for middle class families. So, sir, you should remember, Reena ma'am, cash is king. So you should invest right now in highly liquid options. For example, your basics like fixed deposits, where you can withdraw at any time, is a good option for you to invest in. If you have further funds over and above what you need in the immediate year, you can always look at investing in safe mutual funds and other blue chip shares.
How the small scale jewel sellers can manage the situation due to lockdown and post lockdown, no cash flow in the hands of a middle and low income people usually. But yeah, I think jewelry business is definitely going through a lull. But generally, the tendency, if you see, in the share market does very badly. The gold market always does well. But here we are in a situation where there's no business at all. So people, they don't have an alternative avenue to invest. It's not because they don't have an alternative, it's because they want to conserve the cash. So I think for the next few months there will be a lull unless somebody has a lot of buffers. You'll maybe have some walk-ins where people will come and they'll buy gold jewelry, etc. But in a situation where in a wedding you can't have more than 60 people. Earlier people used to wear so much jewelry so that it's a big occasion. They want to celebrate 6,000, 7,000 people used to attend weddings. Now 60 people only can go maximum. Definitely, I am not going to spend on buying excessive jewelry in these sort of circumstances. I'm going to start spending wisely. And then once I think, the economy picks up, my job is not at a risk, my livelihood is not at a risk. Then in that case, I may invest in gold, etc.
Starting a new business is advisable now. Absolutely, Bhavani. In fact, these days you don't need to have a structure. You can start it from your house itself online. There's so many opportunities. So it's a good time if you have a solid idea. It's a good time for you to explore it and start a business and thrive.
Sir, I have a LIC plan. Should I take health insurance plan in addition to the current situation? I think, Hariharan sir, end of the day, it has to be determined by that individual only. The reason I say that is because given the circumstances that we are living in today, the healthcare cost is very high. The loss of a life is a huge, a loss to a family in terms of revenue and the sort of support that they give. So having a life insurance plan, having a healthcare plan, I'd say is a basic requirement. But if for a person spending that 20,000 per year or 25,000 per year, whatever is the cost of your medical insurance plan, is very high, then naturally, you cannot risk your entire livelihood over that. You have to try to keep healthy. But in general, my advice is try to have some sort of health insurance plan to keep your family safe from any financial difficulties that they may have to face in case a situation like that arises.
The announcement by a finance minister is all about monetary policy. It is the responsibility of RBI. MSME need money, not growth. So this is a good question. But while the finance minister has not only given an option of giving a loan, they're also infusing equity to the tune of 50,000 crores into the economy for MSMEs to utilize from. Not only that, the loans also they've given a 4-year period with a minimum moratorium period of 12 months for repayment of principal, and they've capped the overall interest. So your obligation to repay is not immediate. In terms for the MSME sector, you can take a period of 4 years by when the economy will definitely recover from what has happened.
And I think saying that MSME needs money, not loan, is a very, very broad statement. Loan is also money. You can only, you need to have liquidity, and that is a critical thing. How that liquidity comes, naturally, people cannot come and just simply deposit money into your business. What is the logic? Why should the government come and deposit 10,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees into your business just because it's a business? Instead, you take a loan and you continue your activities. I think that they will definitely give the loans at a low rate. More loans will be given now. That was the always the issue, that maybe NBFCs weren't lending enough, banks weren't lending enough. Now the government has given enough push from their side, saying banks you have to go out and lend. See, this will definitely benefit MSMEs in a very, very huge way.
Unorganized sector was lost their livelihood. How would they do children since my country is
I can confidently say, Margaret, ma'am, you are absolutely right. I think India, unfortunately, we have a lot of unorganized sector, and we see the news every day. We are reading, we are watching what is happening. It's very, very sad to see that how they are struggling. So the government has come up with stimulus packages, etc. And the best they can do is only to address the organized sector in a quantitative manner. But despite that, I think 2 days back, the Honorable Finance Minister came up for migrant workers and for people who are leaving their families and going and working somewhere else. For all of them, people who are trying to walk across borders, for everyone, they have come up with some schemes. They've come up with a lot of policy benefits that should help them. But despite all that, the very fact that it's unorganized will tell you that it's a sector which has a lot of challenges. And I hope the economy picks up soon, because that's what they need. That will only give them the impetus to sort of do well and bounce back. Okay. I think we just
yeah, we
touched this
just
now,
yeah,
so
it's
that's
good.
fine. During all provision price income, how the middle class people will buy without income?
Valid question, sir, but which is why it is important you do the budgeting that I had touched upon for you to understand how to factor in this price increase. Because there are a lot of supply chain disruptions, so it is imperative that you're price of vegetables and fruits, for example, the Coimbatore market is shut down, then naturally it is going to increase, but because there's going to be lesser supply in the hands of vendors. So always when you make your budget, factor in the inflation in price of food and vegetable, and then come with your income statement.
Seeing a lot of questions which are asking on the rural workers, migrant workers, unemployed. The whole point is, the finance minister cannot make an announcement saying we'll deposit 10,000, 20,000 rupees and then close. From a fiscal policy, assuming the government has the money to do that also. If they deposit 20,000, 25,000 into your bank account now, you will survive for the next 3 months. Or you'll be able to provide for the family, whatever, however difficult it might be. But then what happens? It has to be broader reforms. It has to be reforms that will impact employment, that will impact the liquidity and the money that is being circulated in the economy. And that's why when some people say, "How is the policy going to immediately help me?" You cannot see the immediate impact. It has to be at a high level. It will benefit you eventually.
Sir, is there a possibility to decrease in the price of petroleum products because that is a base necessity? Definitely, sir. In fact, the world over, the price of oil has substantially reduced. In fact, it's gone into negative by in the US WTI index. We follow the Brent index. You will see the benefits of this happening in the following months if the demand for oil is still going to be at a low
I
due to
think
economic recovery.
the last time the oil prices were low, the government decided not to pass on the benefits to the customers because they wanted to improve the balance of trade. Whether they will do it this time, it remains to be seen. Given the circumstances, it's unprecedented times. So whatever decision they take, I'm sure we will support it.
And we talk about
Still don't understand. Go to the next one. What is the prospective future of tourism and hospitality? Yeah, I think both these sectors are going to be very, very affected deeply, both for this year and maybe even the repercussions will be felt next year. Because when your entire life and medical risk is there, whether you will take the chance to go to a foreign country or a different state, whether you will be willing to share the plane or share the bus or share the train with unknown people, you don't know if they are unwell or not, whether the hotel room that you're staying in or wherever you are staying, whether it is clean, whether it has been sanitized, so many question marks are there. So you don't feel comfortable doing that travel. So in these circumstances, definitely I don't see the tourism and hospitality sector picking up till the economy picks up.
how about the income tax filing procedures? After this, could they extend filing till November? Will it change the financial assessment year? Yes, they have extended the filing period for the year. That is because they want you to focus on business and revival and survival over the statutory compliances for the government. Now, this does not change the financial and assessment year. It is merely giving you some time period for you to do this, and consequently, you're given more time to pay your self-assessment tax. That interest that used to additionally be imputed has now reduced due to that.
I think we'll wrap up. We'll probably take one
Yeah.
more question and we will wrap up. Digitization and curriculum. What about the students from semi-urban areas? How can they comply? Definitely there is going to be some difficulty initially. Teething problems will always be there, but what we have always seen is necessity is the mother of all inventions. So when the necessity arises, I'm sure already Geo is giving unlimited download speeds up to 4 GB or 5 GB per day. They're giving at 300 rupees, 400 rupees. Most people have smartphones today. So I'm sure more schemes will come up. The government will announce. Other companies will also be interested in taking part in doing this so that it will benefit them, and naturally it will benefit everyone else also. So I think with this we
Yeah.
will wrap up. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and we request you also to please subscribe and watch any other further videos that may be there. Thank you so much, ma'am, Sarathy ma'am, for coordinating and giving us this opportunity to address today. Over to you, ma'am.
On behalf of SDNB Vaishnav College, I extend our heartfelt thanks for your enlightening and informative speech and your patient way of answering all the questions. Thank you once again. I request all the faculty members to fill in the Google form, which is provided in the link, so that we'll get your feedback and you'll be getting your e-certificates. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.